Have you ever wondered if the Vikings were just fierce warriors? Let's dive into their world. As we traverse the misty fjords of history, we often encounter the formidable figure of the Viking warrior. With his horned helmet and imposing battle axe, he appears as a symbol of raw power and brute force. But is this the whole truth? Is it fair to reduce the rich tapestry of Viking life to mere warfare? The common perception of Vikings paints them as seafaring invaders, raiders, and plunderers. But this image is often a simplified one, created and perpetuated by popular culture and folklore. The reality is far more nuanced. Yes, the Vikings were warriors, but they were also traders, explorers, farmers, and craftsmen. So, how did the Vikings really make their wealth? Were the spoils of war their primary source of income? Or did they have other ways to fill their coffers? Imagine for a moment a Viking longboat setting sail not for plunder but for trade. Picture Viking settlements not as temporary raiding camps but as thriving agricultural communities. Visualize a Viking not just as a fearsome warrior, but also as a skilled craftsman, his hands deftly shaping wood, metal, and cloth into valuable items. These alternative images challenge our preconceived notions about the Vikings. They invite us to question the popular myths and delve deeper into the fascinating world of Viking economics. In the coming scenes, we will explore these aspects of Viking life. We will debunk the myth of raiding as the main source of Viking wealth. We will delve into the roles of trade, exploration, farming, and craftsmanship in the Viking economy. We will also discuss the controversial topic of slavery and its place in Viking society. So, were Vikings more than just brutal fighters? Stay with us to find out. Many people believe that Vikings amassed their wealth through raiding. But is this the whole truth? The image of Vikings as fierce raiders sailing in their longships to attack unsuspecting communities is a popular one. But like most things in history, the reality is far more complex and nuanced. The concept of Viking raids is tied to the idea of Viking warriors, fearless, formidable, and always ready for battle. But raiding was a high-risk venture. It required significant resources, manpower, and strategic planning. The success of a raid was never guaranteed, and many a Viking returned home empty-handed, or worse, not at all. Raiding was also seasonal. The harsh Nordic winters made it impossible for long voyages, limiting the window for raiding to a few summer months. This meant that for the majority of the year, Vikings had to find other ways to sustain themselves and their communities. The unpredictability of raiding rewards further complicates the image of Vikings as solely raiders. While some raids yielded bountiful treasures, others resulted in meager loot, hardly worth the effort and risk. And even when a raid was successful, the spoils had to be divided among the raiding party, leaving each individual with a smaller share. The reality is, raiding was just one aspect of Viking life. It was an option, a gamble, a chance to make it big, but it was not the everyday reality for most Vikings. They were not just warriors but also farmers, traders, and craftsmen, whose lives were rooted in their homelands, not the open seas. So, while it's true that Vikings did raid, it's a myth that this was their primary or only source of wealth. They were a diverse and complex society with a robust economy that relied on a variety of income sources. Raids were indeed part of Viking life, but it wasn't their primary source of income. Let's explore further. Beyond warfare, Vikings were great explorers and traders. This facet of their life often gets overshadowed by their warrior image. In reality, their exploration and trade ventures played a significant role in their wealth accumulation. Vikings were not just confined to the cold, harsh climates of Scandinavia. They were seafarers, navigating the wide open seas with their longships, exploring new lands, and establishing trade routes. These routes extended as far as North Africa, Russia, and the Byzantine Empire, covering vast distances that are difficult to comprehend even today. Viking longships were not just war vessels but also trade ships. They were designed to navigate both deep sea and shallow rivers, making them ideal for exploration and trade. This allowed Vikings to reach far inland, opening up new markets and opportunities for trade. Now, let's talk about what they traded. Vikings were not just recipients of goods, but also suppliers. They traded a variety of items like furs, tusks, sealskins, and even slaves. In return, they brought back valuable goods like silk, spices, silver, and wine. They were skilled negotiators, always ensuring they got the best deal. These trade ventures were not just about acquiring wealth, but also about establishing diplomatic relations. Vikings often married into local nobility to cement alliances, further strengthening their trade networks. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Vikings faced many challenges in their trade and exploration ventures. They had to navigate dangerous waters, deal with unfamiliar cultures, and sometimes even face hostility. But their resilience, adaptability, and shrewdness helped them overcome these challenges. So the Vikings were not just warriors but also savvy traders and explorers. They recognized the value of trade and exploration, and leveraged it to their advantage. Their story is a testament to their entrepreneurial spirit and their ability to adapt and thrive in diverse situations. It reminds us that there's always more than meets the eye, and that it's important to look beyond stereotypes to understand the full picture. Did you know that farming played a crucial role in Viking society? Indeed, contrary to the popular image of Vikings as mere raiders and warriors, their society was heavily grounded in agriculture. Vikings were not just fierce fighters sailing the seas, but also hard-working farmers tilling the soil. They relied on farming for survival and prosperity, making it a cornerstone of their economy. In the fertile lands of Scandinavia, Vikings cultivated a variety of crops. They grew barley, oats and rye, and kept cattle, pigs, sheep and goats. These not only provided sustenance for their families but also surplus produce that could be traded for other goods. This trading of agricultural products contributed significantly to Viking wealth, but it wasn't just about farming at home. When Vikings set out to explore and settle new lands, they didn't just bring their weapons. They brought their plows too. They sought out fertile lands, not just for pillage, but for cultivation. The settlement of places like Iceland, Greenland, and even parts of North America was driven by the search for new farmlands. Land ownership was another important aspect. In Viking society, land was a significant status symbol and a source of wealth. The more land one owned, the more crops could be grown, and the more wealth could be accumulated. It was a tangible asset that could be passed down from generation to generation, ensuring the prosperity of Viking families. In essence, farming was an integral part of Viking life. It was a means of survival, a source of wealth, and a driver of exploration and settlement. It was not the glamorous life of a warrior, but it was the lifeblood of Viking society. So the next time you imagine a Viking, don't just picture a helmeted warrior with an axe. Imagine also a farmer with a plow, tending to his fields under the Nordic sun. That's a true depiction of Viking life. Farming was indeed a significant part of the Viking economy. Vikings were not just warriors and farmers, they were also skilled craftsmen. Indeed, the Vikings were a people of many talents, and one of their significant skills lay in their hands and the crafts they produced. These crafts, often intricately designed and masterfully executed, were not just for their personal use. They were commodities, items of trade, and a substantial source of income for the Viking people. From the forging of iron to the weaving of textiles, the Vikings were masters of a variety of crafts. Their blacksmiths, for instance, were renowned for their ability to mold iron into tools, weapons, and even intricate jewelry pieces. These items were not only functional, but were also considered valuable trade goods. Weaving, too, was a significant craft in Viking society. Both men and women engaged in the making of textiles, producing everything from everyday clothing to ornate tapestries. These items were sought after, not just within Viking society but also by those they traded with. Vikings were also well known for their skills in woodworking. From the construction of their iconic longships to the creation of furniture and household items, the Vikings demonstrated a profound understanding of this material. Their longships in particular were marvels of engineering, making them fast, robust, and versatile. These ships weren't just tools of war, they were also symbols of Viking craftsmanship and a testament to their seafaring culture. And let's not forget about the artistry of the Vikings. Their craftsmen created stunning works of art, often imbued with symbolism from their rich mythological and cultural heritage. These pieces of art, whether they were carved into wood or cast in metal, were highly prized. In essence, the Vikings were not just warriors or farmers, they were skilled craftsmen, and their crafts played a significant role in their economic prosperity. The fruits of their labor were not just for their own use but also served as valuable commodities that they could trade or sell, contributing to their wealth and prosperity. Craftsmanship was another way Vikings added to their wealth. While it's an uncomfortable truth, slavery played a role in the Viking economy. It was a grim facet of the Viking world, but it's vital we acknowledge it to fully understand their society. Vikings captured slaves, often referred to as thralls, during their raids. These thralls came from all walks of life, from chieftains and warriors to farmers and artisans. Once captured, these individuals were integrated into Viking society, not as free citizens but as a working class. They toiled on Viking farms, served in Viking households, and were even involved in craft production. Their labor, while forced and unpaid, contributed significantly to the Viking economy. Moreover, Vikings traded these thralls in international slave markets, generating substantial income. This trade network stretched from Dublin to Istanbul, making it a lucrative business for the Vikings. Slavery, while a dark aspect of Viking society, was a part of their economic structure. So, were Vikings more than just brutal warriors? Absolutely. As we've discovered, Vikings were not merely raiders but skilled traders exploring foreign lands and bringing back valuable goods. They were farmers, tilling new lands not for conquest but for cultivation. Their craftsmanship was unparalleled, creating highly sought-after items for trade. Even in their controversial practice of slavery, we see a complex economic strategy at play. Indeed, Vikings were much more than just warriors. They were a complex society with a diverse economy. We've busted the myth of Vikings as just warriors today. But the journey of discovery doesn't stop here. There's another tale waiting to be unraveled. A story from the annals of history, shrouded in misconceptions and half-truths. A civilization that has been misunderstood for centuries. We're about to embark on another exciting myth-busting adventure. Are you ready to challenge what you think you know? Join us next time as we bust another historical myth. Can you guess what it is?